Concept of self, understanding and enhancing one's self-image. So concepts related to the self. Self-concept is how you perceive your behavior, abilities, and unique characteristics. The self is made up of many self-perceptions, abilities, and personality characteristics that are organized and consistent with one another. Self-concept refers to how people see or describe themselves. It is the subjective perception of who people are and what they like, or the person I think I am, or the person I wish to be. So, self-concept is the personal knowledge of an individual about who they are. It includes how a person behaves, their capabilities, and their characteristics. It's like looking into a mirror and describing what you see. For example, beliefs such as I am a good friend or I am a kind person are part of an overall self-concept. A psychologist named Carl Rogers was the proponent of the self theory. This theory is regarded as humanistic and is a move towards recognizing human potential for psychological growth. So, people with a positive self-concept tends to act, feel, and think constructively and optimistically. Overall, they think of themselves in a good light. On the other hand, people who have a negative self-concept will behave, think, and act with pessimism. They do not believe in their ability to do things or carry out certain tasks. So, people with a positive self-concept starts with learning to accept and love themselves. It also means being accepted and loved by others, while person with negative self-concept represents weak self-approval and lack of motivation because they have not done well in the past.
A positive or negative self-concept reflects a dominant or prevailing trend of positivism or negativism in the self. Hence, if a person is labeled as having a positive self-concept, it means that his or her prevailing behavior and general outlook of himself or herself are on positive side. It does not mean, however, that the person does not have any low or negative thoughts or ideas about oneself. So to make this short, a person thinks positively or negatively. But if a person thinks on a positive side, he or she has the behavior and the general outlook of himself or herself mostly on a positive thinking or in the positive way. But it doesn't mean that this person doesn't think about any low or negative thoughts or ideas about oneself. So there are two kinds of selves, the real self and the ideal self. The real self is the image or picture of the self based on a person's actual experiences and represents how he or she really or actually sees himself or herself. So it means that the real self, it is the real you, or this is how you see yourself. For the ideal self, is a self based on one's hopes and wishes. It reflects how one likes to see himself or herself to be. In other terms, ideal self means that this is the ambitions or the ideal person you want to be. So for example, for the real self, I am lazy and I don't want to exercise. For the ideal self, I want to be slim and physically fit. So that is how simple to understand the two kinds of selves.
Discrepancy in self-concept. The self-discrepancy theory states that individual compare their actual self to internalized standards or the ideal out self. Inconsistency between actual, ideal, and out are associated with emotional discomfort. According to this theory, people hold the belief about what they're like of their actual self and as well as what would like to be to their ideal self and what they think they should be to their out self. Ideally, people or the person prefer to close the gap between their actual self and their ideal self or old belief. If they fall short, any discrepancies may lead to specific emotional and motivational consequences. Uh, According to Ruger, 1953, it states that there is usually a contradiction or discrepancy between the real self and the ideal self. This difference may result in discomfort and personality problems, which can be resolved by paying more attention to one's actual experience, working more at positive experiences, and paying less attention to the expectation of others. Example of discrepancy self-concept. John, a person who likes science, but his grades in science are considered as average, and many of his classmates in fact, have a higher grades than he was. However, he hopes and dreams of making scientific discoveries and becoming an eminent scientist in the future. To work out the discrepancy between John's actual science performance and his dreams to become a scientist, he has to work at positive experiences. It means that he has to put more hour of studies, visit scientific facilities, or participate in activities like science fairs and exhibits. An obscure view of the self may also result due to a wide discrepancy between the real self and the ideal self. Failure to achieve the ideal self may lead to a drop in self-concept. Eventually, the individual might even develop a negative self-concept. We have positive regard. The positive regard is believed to be important for the healthy development of one's self-concept and for successful interpersonal relationship. By Libert and Spengler, 1984, the positive regards includes love, sympathy, warmth, acceptance, and respect, which people crave from family, friends, and are significant example. Um, if you are craving or that person is craving love by his parents or craving love by someone he like, that's the positive regard. And conditional positive regards is refers to positive regard received as the result of acceptance behavior or living up to the expectation and standards of others. So example of conditional positive regards, if that person and it belongs to the family, that person is uh, being a high or being his grade is high than his classmates, and your family provide or give awards because of your achievement, it's the conditional positive regards. The unconditional positive regards, on the other hand, it refers to the love and acceptance received by person regardless of who he is or who she was or what she does. Example, if you are a bisexual person or you're in a group of LGBT and you say that to your family and they accept you unconditionally, that's unconditional positive regard. The development of self-concept starts from the home. You will soon become parents. You may will become parents. That is very important that you will provide your children with the environment and opportunities that will enable them to develop good self-concept. You should make use of available support mechanism as well as give and show them love, support, and respect so that they will grow up with positive of self-concepts.
Self-esteem is used to describe a person's overall subjective sense of personal worth or value. Self-esteem may define as how much you appreciate or like yourself regardless of the circumstances. Your self-esteem is defined by many factors including self-confidence. So, personality and social developments refers to how a person's sense of self or self-identity, relationship with others, and skills necessary for social interactions evolve. personal or self-identity. It explains how people describe themselves in terms of values, goals, traits, and perceptions unique to them. So, being emotionally and social adjusted cheerfulness and overall happiness. A low self-esteem is associated with negative outcomes like depression, anxiety, antisocial behavior, and a poor personal adjustment. So, self-esteem is distinct from self-concept as the latter to the knowledge of oneself or the image of person's view, perceptions, or descriptions of him or herself in terms of certain characteristics. So, in other words, self-esteem is how much you appreciate yourself or how you like yourself. And also, it plays a significant role in motivation and success through your life and your ability to achieve those things that you desire.
Self-actualization means human possess an inner drive to grow, improve, and use their potential to the fullest by Plotnik 2014. The final stage of completed growth is known as self-actualization or self-fulfillment, a major tenet in humanistic psychology. According to Abraham Maslow, 1943, a self-actualization person has reached the highest level or peak of his or her personal development and has fully realized his or her potential as a human being. This is where you'll realize the real purpose in your life. Once you realize that self-actualization is not about making the most money or achieving the highest status, that it is the desirable state achieved through reaching one's full personal potential, we open the door of possibility in our own lives. For example, an artist who has never made a profit on his art, but he still paints because it is fulfilling and makes him happy. Also, a father who gets a sense of purpose from raising his children to be a positive force in the world. In 1943, Abraham Maslow formulated the hierarchy of needs that explains that the individual's actions are directed towards goal attainment. The hierarchy is composed of 5 stages of human needs and usually illustrated in the pyramid like shown in the previous slide. The levels are sequentially satisfied according to the most basic needs found at the bottom of the pyramid, progressing onto higher level of needs. The first level are the physiological needs. For survival comprised of food, water, shelter, and clothing and sleep. People would first be considered with satisfying these needs over the others. After satisfying these needs, they can advance to the second level or the safety and security needs. This stage involves health and well-being, property, social stability, and protection from harm, among others. It is necessary for everyone, but more especially for those who live in dangerous areas. Addressing love and belongingness needs make up the third stage. Adults and adolescents who are starting to look for serious relationship are particularly concerned with satisfying these needs at this level. At the fourth level focuses on esteem needs. It contains items such as achievements, competency, approval, recognition, and respect from others. At the highest needs, as mentioned earlier, are self-actualization needs. Included in this level are morality, realization of the purpose in life, meaning, inner potential, and the like. This level aims for the full development of one's unique potentials. Only a few individuals reach this level because the process of achieving self-actualization is difficult and challenging.